recording then.
Okay. Good day, everybody. I decided to do a small video, and what I'm working with is a locomotive. I'm setting up a DCC decoder in a Proto 2000 E8, E9 locomotive. What I did is I already dismantled the locomotive ahead of time, save some time here, but this is the locomotive here. It's a Via Rail E8, E9. It just came in with a standard circuit, and what that circuit was, it's just something, it's basically a very simple circuit board. I removed the connections. It's just diodes to control the headlight. That is all. Now, for anyone wanting a DCC, well, this is not very much good, so I have to convert the locomotive to be able to run to DCC. What I did was completely dismantle the locomotive down to its bare essentials, and I left the original wires for the motor. These are like about a 30 gauge wire approximately, and they are pre-soldered to the motor already. Motor is already isolated from the frame, so there was no need to bother with anything else. However, the power pickups from the wheels to the circuit board I had to completely eliminate. What I am doing with this is I am actually going to be replacing these wires with this new wire I picked up here. It's a number 24 gauge, and it's a silicone coating on this one here. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to replace the original wiring with this new silicone wiring. Like I said, this is a 24 gauge. It's going to be able to handle a little bit more current because it's a little bit bigger. I think the original wires in there were something around 26, 28 gauge. So I preheated my iron, and the iron is nice and hot. I'm just using one that I picked up at the source. It's a Next Tech soldering iron, 30 watt. Just right to do what we're doing here. 15 watt is just not powerful enough. 30 watt gives me just enough current to handle the job. So what I'm going to start off with, if you notice, I just stripped the end of the wire, and I'm leaving it as a full roll. So I'm going to solder in the first wire, and I'm going to bridge the two trucks together. So I'm going to start with a little bit of heat. Just going to take a few moments here. Make sure you're tinted properly. Don't create a cold solder joint. You want your solder joints to be good, and you want it to be clean. Okay, I'm just going to get it just right here. There we go. Just wait a few moments. Put it back into the top over here. I have a holder so not to burn anything. Make sure. Yeah, I got a little messy of a counter, but hey, it gets the job done. Too many projects, not enough time. So what I'm going to do now is, this is the extra weight that goes on the motor. So I'm just going to make sure I got enough length. So I'm going to place the original wires back through the hole here, where they originally came through. This is going to come down. Now, I want to see here, I've got two little channels here on the weight, so I'm just going to run that down. Make sure you got lots of space here. You don't want any problems. You don't want no binding. It's very important. So I'm going to come down here, roughly about this point here, and just snip the end and strip the end here. Now be careful when you are working with this stuff. Wear proper safety equipment. Don't do like I do. It's basically do what I say, don't do what I do. When working with tools, always use safety. Be very careful. Now, okay, I got this. I remove it because the way the weight is designed back here, this goes past the connection, so I had to remove this in order to access the rear soldering point. So I'm just going to install the second one. Once again, this is using the silicone coated wire. I've already got solder on the tab. And it's kind of hard to see. And it's that easy. With the proper tools, it's very, very easy, very, very fast. So this is one side, the right-hand side. Now I got to basically repeat the process for the left-hand side. Make sure you've got enough wire. You're going to just pull a little bit out here. There. I like to have lots of room to work. I tend to buy my rolls 50 feet at a time. Gives me lots of play space. If I make a mistake, well, I don't have to worry about wiring. Mind you, this silicone wire is a little bit more expensive than the other wire, but it is good. I use this on a lot of different things. I do a lot of radio control work, so I tend to use it mostly on that stuff, but this is perfect for this. Now I want to put a little bit of solder this on. Like I said, I pre-tin the tabs, so I do have the solder already on it. Now we just, she's a little on the hot side. There, simple as that. Now check my length, make sure it matches like the other one. You don't want it too long, you don't want it too short. If you get it too long, it's going to end up plugging up your the mess. If you got it too short, what happens is you're going to end up binding. This takes a little bit of time. Patience is very, very important. You do not want a mistake, because one mistake equals to a short circuit or something terrible. So there's the other one. Now you notice how I'm just jumping them across. I am not concerning myself with the decoder or anything yet. Priorities is getting the locomotive prepared for the decoder, because this is not a DCC equipped ready locomotive. Now, if some of the older Atherns and so forth are the same idea. I have the old blue box Atherns. Now I'll be doing some conversions for those as well. Now, basically I've got two handles. So I'm going to take this, now that this part is done. This is the power pickup, and these are your motor contacts. So I'm just going to take this now, and I'm going to run the wires through, right through the hole here. Now, like I was saying earlier, now she's lined up. Now here's my motor leads where it was. The other leads are coming through. Now you notice how the metal goes past, so this is why I had to remove this panel. Just tighten up my 4 screws back again, rethread them back. It's actually not that bad of a job. A lot of people say, oh no, it's a big job, but if you're patient and you're careful, you don't have anything to worry about. So here I do have my power leads coming up, coming through here. I'm just going to put a little slack spot so that it can work. You do not want a locomotive with binding wires. You're only asking for trouble and you're going to get derailments. So a little slack here, power feed line through. Now you notice how I sent the wires in toward the center. It shows I got lots of room and they're going down the channels. The rear, I'm not concerning myself right now. The dcc decoder is going to be back here. So at the back here is going to be that decoder, and now it's just a matter of figuring out what goes where. Now for the unit, now that's another thing, is this locomotive here, it's got an interior. This is an interior I had previously removed. The bulb I am not going to be using anymore. I'll be replacing these with LEDs. I picked up online some LEDs. I buy them in bulk. And these LEDs here, I have to use resistors, which I also buy in bulk. So I'll be placing in one resistor in to the circuit when I install my DCC circuit. I'll be attaching one resistor. That's going to cut the voltage down to work with the bulb, so the bulb itself don't burn out. The DCC decoder I'm using, it's a company called anemodel. This is the brand. It's a real nice little machine. I've tested out a few of them already, and they do work very well. They are short address. These particular ones are short address, not a long address. What I mean by that is I can go 3 digits for the programming. I can't use the 4 on this one. They do. There is 4 address if you want long address, but in this particular model, short address is going to be fine. There's lots of little wires on this, so don't let the wires, the amount of wires, fool you, and don't let it intimidate you. It's not that bad. As long as you follow your color coding, you're going to be okay. Now, this particular model is called Local Cruiser LC102. Now, very important. I can't emphasize that enough. That little piece of paper that comes with that, never throw that out. It's very important. I'm not going to bother programming in all the extra little gadgets and everything, so all these speed tables and stuff like that, I'm going to leave it at default for now. The primary part is what's most important is right down here in the next page. It shows you your pin numbers. Well, in this particular model, there is no pin. It's the 102 has no pins. Now, if we had the 101, it would be very simple. Just plug it in. It would have, the locomotive would have an 8-pin plug. You plug it in, and away it goes. This one here, you've got lots of little wires. Each one has to be soldered properly. So we're going to start where this unit here is just another thing. Is, what I like about this company is they actually heat shrink the circuit board. It's clear covering over it, so it doesn't short out. So I can actually take it and place it on here and not worry about shorting out, because the way they did it, they were very, very smart with that. I really like the idea of that. I don't have to shrink it. They already done it for me. So I'm going to start with my motor connections. They're right here. I got blue for the bottom, yellow on top. Be very careful, because your polarity will affect whether you're going to go forward or reverse. It's a common mistake I tend to make. I always end up putting them backwards. So when I'm going forward, my engine goes backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to solder my wires right away on the motor itself. I am going to attach first number 1. Okay, I'm done with my silicone wire. So I'm going to start with number 1, track power. My 2 wires I installed, I'm going to continue with them. So if you look at the manual, your motor minus is a gray wire, or no, here, excuse me, black for your left rail, and right rail is red. So I'm going to be using gray and red. I'm going to look here. Here's my red. Get this little fella out. This here looks to be about a 30 gauge wire. Now where's my gray? Let's keep it nice and clean here. There you go, gray and red. Verify. Left rail. No, it wasn't gray. It was red and black. My mistake. That's why it's always good to have that manual. Make sure you always got the right wires, otherwise you will not have a decoder for very long. So, red and black. So black is supposed to be my left rail, but that all depends what you call left. Depends on your direction you're traveling to. So I'm just going to strip off the black and the red. So there's my 2 leads. Now I am going to take and I'm going to tap in. So I'm figuring with my DCC decoder is going to be back here. It's such a nice little decoder, so tiny. I can fit this in the smallest of the small steam engines. By the way, I have already done. So this one here will fit right in here really nice. I can just use double-sided tape, anything, or just masking tape, anything I want. So I'm just going to take that, put that here. So my black and red, and I am going to take these wires and, you know, see what I mean about working a little too fast? I think I'm going to do something a little bit better. And I'm going to remove this cover back off. Instead of taking and putting the wire up above, I am going to actually, because the decoder is so close, I'm actually going to put it right to a soldering point that I had earlier. And it's going to make things better. Why waste? Why make a mess? So, here we go. Black and red. There you are. So I'm just going to take that and just attach it onto here. It's already a solder point, so might as well just add 1 more wire on. There's the black. And just flip this over. And we're going to connect the red. There, so the wires here are my bridge going from the front to the back. These are just to transfer power. My DCC decoder is soldered, my main power. So this is where I'm going to get my power from, my energy. Now I can replace the weight. Place the weight back on. This is a locomotive. It's for a lower price locomotive. It's actually quite a good locomotive. Mind you, you'd like to go to something like Atlas and these other fancy locomotives. But if you're in a budget, these do a pretty good job. Just gonna get that other little wire. We got a stubborn little one here. You know what? You want to be stubborn? You can be stubborn. I don't need this one wire. Well, I might need it later for something else. Like I said, patience is important. There, so that's in. There we are. Now we're getting to the point now. Okay, here's my motor. Now I have to watch because if I don't connect it properly, it's going to be going backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip the ends. I'm going to get my motor wires, going back to the manual again. Always refer to your manual. Motor, gray. Your minus in your motor is your gray, and your positive is your orange. So I'm going to be using gray and orange. That's my next one. So orange. And gray. Now I'm just going to take these and I'm going to do a test before I do any soldering. Orange and gray. So I'm just going to take that and just do a quick twist. And a quick twist. Now, these decoders, as all others, are pre-programmed as 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my DCC system, place it on the track, and apply power to it, and try it on 3, and see exactly what it does. Now, this is the next step. This is going to tell me if my polarity is proper or not. If it's proper, I can solder it. If it's backwards, well, it's just a matter of reversing the connections and then soldering it. That's where it does the final. So I'll be back in a moment.
Are we?
Okay, so we're back here. I've just tested the locomotive, and like I said earlier, just twist connect your your motor wires to make sure that your polarity is properly. Because if you just go ahead and solder, you might have a mistake, and of course your locomotive is going to be going backwards. Guess what? Mine was backwards. So I have gray on blue, orange on yellow. So that is backwards. So I'm going to flip that around. I'm actually going to put the gray on the yellow, and that's going to make my polarity proper. So I'm just going to do the little twist, And these tiny little wires, small fingers do come in handy. Like I said, small fingers do come in handy. There, and a orange and blue. There, so now the polarity should be properly because it's opposite of where it was before. So now I'm going to take the old iron and just do the quick. These are small wires, so it works fast. There. As simple as that. Motor is connected. So now that the motor is connected, this locomotive actually will run. Now we're almost done. I want to insulate these connections because I don't want these to short out, burn out your power supply, or your DCC decoder I should say. So I'm just going to take something simple, black electrical tape. Excellent insulator. So I'm just going to cut a little strip, take a pair of scissors, a little over about an inch long or so. Just enough to cover the insulation. I would actually recommend using heat shrink. Unfortunately, I just don't have any here right at the moment. So I'm kind of like taking a shortcut. Don't recommend it. So I'm just going to roll this up real good. I do not want this to short out. This is very important that you do not short out these connections because these decoders are sensitive. They are easy to damage. So I got my two connections here. Now I'm not putting it normal. The way I'm doing it is I'm actually putting it sideways on the length rather than on the width because it is such a small wire, and I just roll it around and it gives me a real good insulation. There, so there's the two motor connections. She's insulated. Now I can, basically if I want, I could take it, run it on a track, test it, but I'm already familiar with the fact that it already does run. So now it's just a matter of tucking the decoder into place and finding a safe place for my wires. It's very important that you keep everything nice and tidy. You do not want to make a mess. A clean locomotive is a happy locomotive. Now, I am going to just make sure that everything just sits nice and snug. I'm going to test fit my interior because you do not want to make mistakes. So this is just going to come out like this on each side. So I'm going to set it like this, and I'm going to be fine with this. Okay. So to make sure everything stays in place, A1. So now I'm going to take, push my decoder off to the side for now. These are my main power lines, so I'm going to use electrical tape as well again. I'm just going to cut a little strip. It's not a good idea to have wires just hanging around. Okay. Alright, so what I did is I have everything installed, basically your locomotive is running. I placed 2 strips of electrical tape holding the wires nice and snug on the top here. Your motor connections are all here. Now the only thing that's left is actually lights. Now this locomotive here has just the one headlight. So the key is for this one, when you look at it, you're looking at the circuits capable of handling your front light, a rear light. You can actually run there's 3 other wires that actually connect on here to create flashing ditch lights or whatever you want to do. The third wire, you can set it as a flicker if you got a steam locomotive to do the firebox. So this locomotive in particular, the only thing that needs to be done is a headlight. So I'm going to need an LED light for that. So the headlight itself is the front light. It's a white. Now they carry a common, so the function common is blue. So in other words, for my headlight, I need blue and white. So blue being the common, economically, I am going to put my resistor on the blue. That way, there are any LEDs, it's using the shared one resistor can share among the others. So here's my little resistor. Now it's so tiny here, I need to use my clamps. Now I clamp it on the wire, so when I do put heat on, the heat will actually stop at the clamp here. It won't allow any heat to go past. So I am going to put a little tinting on the resistor. There. And I'm going to connect my blue wire onto that. Make sure you got a good connection. This is going to be my headlight. It doesn't catch very good. Like I said, you gotta have a good connection here. It's wanting to play games on me. So I'll just twist the wire and try this again. There. It's amazing what you can do a little solder. It was a little too dry, so that's why I didn't want to stick. So now I got the excess here. Just trim that off. You don't want it too long. So here I have my resistor, my circuit. Now the LED is going to be at the opposite end of the locomotive. So with the locomotive being in play, the decoder, I'm going to place it in here. I'm going to have to run a line going all the way up to the front. Obviously it's a little too short, so I'm going to use a slightly different wire. I'm going to use 30 gauge. Now I have two colors here, black and blue. So I'm using a blue wire here as my common. So I am going to take and I'm going to attach again, and I'm going to use my 30 gauge blue. 30 gauge is going to be lots because it's only powering a single LED. Now I got to tin it. Tinning, well, it's like you seen me doing earlier. Place a little bit of solder on the wire, so you're tinning the wire. And I'm going to put a little solder on the resistor. Once again, I'm leaving the wire intact on the roll. So that's done. I'm going to trim the excess off the resistor. There we go. So this basically makes my extension. Now, for safety reasons, I am going to put some tape on that as well. Nothing worse than a short circuit. So here we are. My little resistor is tapped in the circuit. So I can actually run my line up now. This is going to come up to about here. So I am just going to cut it up here. So I make sure I got lots of wire. Now, my LED, I'm using 2mm LEDs here. I don't have any 5s on hand.
What's the flash here then?
That's okay.
On the menu. Record window.
Okay, so here I have my extension placed on the blue. I'm going to have to put an extension on the white as well. So I'm just going to switch over and I'm going to do this here. So, and while I'm doing this, you guys can take a little break here. I'm just going to jump over, so you basically seen me one, so why waste some time? And I'll catch you after.
Okay.
So here we are. We're at the basically finishing stages. I've soldered in the headlights. So I've used the white, which is your white is your main headlight in the front. Your yellow is the rear. And while I was at it, I figured I'll throw in a little twist to it. I used also the brown wire, which does like a flickering effect. There's two other wires I did not use. It was green and purple. Those two is if you want to make a flashing light that goes like, you can make two lights that flash alternating. So like if you have, for example, ditch lights, so sometimes you see a train coming in at the station and you have the lights flashing side to side with the alternating flashing. That there you can create that using your green and your purple. For this case here, I did not use it. I did allow it though. I added, if you see here, I kind of cleaned it up. She's looks pretty decent. Lots of wires, but it's all cleaned up, all bundled. I've allowed for an extra blue wire for future if I do ever want to put those two lights into this locomotive. I've actually soldered the lights in the wires, so it's just a matter of installing two LEDs. One resistor powered the entire lot of light, all the lights I used. I only needed to use one. You could have used one resistor for each light, but in the case that I did here, I put the resistor on the common instead of putting them on each light. Did save a lot of space and does save money in the long run because you're not using as many parts. So this unit here, what I did, because it does not have a rear light and I want the headlight to be basically always on, for safety reasons, I did not want to take a chance and damage the decoder. So I used two LEDs in the front, your forward and your reverse. So both lights will come on, one depending which direction you're going. So they're wired in there. And the brown, which is the alternating, is also in there. So I actually have three LEDs stacked one above the other to work. So here we are, we're all closed up, nice and clean. So the matter now is just the finishing touches. So the interior is going to be bolted in. It's just a matter of two little screws in this case. One here and one on the opposite side. Don't lose your screws. And the other side. And that pretty much covers the inside of the locomotive. She's complete. Now all I have to do is just put the body on. Now this one here is attached, just make sure you don't damage anything in the process. Just slide it down. You've got two pins on each side. Be careful at the back here. I've got the brake. You can easily break these here because they're so detailed. Just put the pin, the other side, and break the uncoupling gear. Just drop that below the and she's done. So, locomotive is complete. DCC equipped. It's still on channel. The program is 3. Now is the final test to make sure everything works perfect. And once she's done, she goes to the programming track, and I'll be programming this one here. The locomotive is 1802, so I'll be programming it as 802 because I can only go to 3 digits on this decoder. So, off to the testing. Okay, so here we are on our test track. Everything's all together. So our locomotive is sitting on the track. Now we're going to do our maiden voyage, as you say. She's a brand new locomotive. She's never been run before. She's not even broken in. So we're going to do our test run here. We're going to go our forward movement. And short straight. And our reverse. Now we're going to do our headlight. Headlight works. Forward movement here. So here now you see your forward. And I switch it over to reverse. Notice how the headlight dimmed a little bit. Forward, reverse. And we're also added on that little extra is little flashing light. So this is it for this one. Basically installing a decoder into the locomotive. This is the Loco Cruiser LC102. You see pretty much everything it's capable of doing. The only difference is I don't have the two lights, one here and one here, that flash alternately. That's the only ones I did not set up in here. But it's a nice little decoder. If somebody wants something in a simple, it's very compact in size. LC102 Loco Cruiser by anemodel. So now she's going to go into the programming track and get her new number programmed into it.
Yeah,
so
so
I do have these locomotive decoders. If you do have, if you are interested in decoders, just contact me. I have the one with the 8-pin NMRA plug and wired like this. Just contact me if you're interested in some, and I'll give you some kind of a deal depending on what quantity you're looking for. So, happy railroading. Hope you had a good time.